Hey guys, so today I wanted to make an informative video teaching you about how to collect and understand collecting World War II uniforms. This is a video idea I've had for a long time. I've spent a lot of time putting it together, and so I want to give you information that will help you in your future collecting. So let's go ahead and get in here and get started. All right, so like I said, this is a video to teach you how to understand and collect World War II uniforms. I plan on doing a part 2 on officer uniforms soon, so be on the lookout for that. But something I wanted to tell you though is, research and reference material is very important when you're collecting really anything. You always want to have knowledge, because knowledge is power about what you want to collect, right? Because you don't want to, get burned, overpay for stuff, or just misunderstand what you're trying to collect. It could get you in I guess, financial bind, or just make you not really appreciate what you collect down the road, because you get frustrated with whatever it may be that you've got burned on or whatever. So knowledge is power. So one thing I wanted to tell you about this book right here, Finding Your Father's War, is great. I've had this book over 10 years. It's got so much really good information about uniforms and so much stuff. So if you want a good reference book, pick this up, Finding Your Father's War. It's a great one. There's a lot more material out there. So definitely get reference material, research what you want to collect. Collecting can be fun and rewarding and everything. But again, knowledge is power. You want to understand what you're trying to collect. And so I wanted to make this video on uniforms. There's so much that can go on with collecting a uniform. There's, as you can see, just kind of panning the table here, there's so much on some of these uniforms, and it can confuse people as to what this is. Like, what does these patches represent? What are these medals? What are these? And how can I better understand it? And so what I wanted to tell you is, so when it comes to World War II uniforms, there's two main uniforms that most people collect. And that would be the Class A, the dress uniform here, or the Eisenhower jacket, also known as short as the Ike jacket. Those are the main two that most people collect. Again, there's officer jackets, there's field jackets. I've actually done a video on field jackets before, and I'll do one on officer jackets. So when it comes to a Class A or a dress jacket, that would be this example right here. It's a full-length jacket. It has 4 pockets. It has, 2 upper pockets and 2 lower pockets that are bigger than the upper pockets. So it's a 4-pocket jacket. It's full length. And so basically these are they're designed for dress or garrison use. They wouldn't have been worn in combat. So if you see a dress jacket like this, also known as a Class A, it's not a combat jacket, obviously, like a field jacket would be. And then, just as an example of an Eisenhower jacket, would be this one right here. It's a shorter jacket. It's only got 2 pockets here on the front. And basically, this was adopted later on in the war by General Eisenhower. And it was basically modeled off the British battle dress jacket that they wore, because they wore something similar as a shortened jacket that they would wear. And so Eisenhower liked it, and he adopted that. And then that's how the Ike or Eisenhower jacket came into play. Again, this was later in the war, whereas, the dress A's, a lot of times you'll see in the pocket on the date tag, you'll see like 1940, 41, 42, and so forth. But it's real important, to understand what you're collecting. And a way that you would know the manufacturer of these, when it comes to the Class A or dress jacket, most of the time the manufacturer's tag is going to be in this bottom pocket here on the front, the bottom left pocket. And so what I'll show you here is it gives you the company that made it, Dependable Clothing Company, and then you see it's got like a dated of 2/7/40 when it was basically the model was adopted, and then you see December 29, 1941. So this is a very early war jacket right here, 1941, the end of 41. And again, that's the dress A, the Class A dress jacket. Now, when it comes to an Ike jacket, the 2 pockets, this the shortened one, the tag is normally right here on the inside pocket. And as you see here, this one was, was made by a Progressive Clothing Manufacturer Company. And then you see you got May 10th, 1944, and then you got June 9th, 1944. So again, this is a later war jacket that came into manufacturing. And so again, the dress jacket is going to be most of the time in this front pocket here. The Eisenhower Ike jacket, it's going to be most of the time on the inside here. Now, I have actually seen tags on the other inside pocket on an Ike jacket, just like I've seen, instead of the dress jacket tag being in this pocket, it'll be in the other front pocket. And so sometimes the tags will be missing altogether. Sometimes they're too faded or wore out to read, but it gives good information so you can better date the jacket, right? And so, so I guess I'll get started here. So when it comes to collar disc, which are these right here, just for an enlisted man, he would have this U.S. Circular collar disc on the right lapel. It's left if you're facing the jacket, but if you're wearing it, it would be on your right. And then right here on the left lapel, it would be like basically your the unit. And so this guy was an engineer. That's the castle there. There are so many different unit collar discs. There's infantry, there's cavalry, there's quartermaster, ordnance. I mean, there's just so many. Some people only collect stuff like that, just like some people only collect, patches and stuff. But again, an enlisted man only, it would be a U.S. here. And then again, on the right would be their branch insignia, like infantry or honored and so forth. When it comes to patches and stuff, some uniforms you'll see only have a patch on the left shoulder. And again, I'm saying left if you were to be wearing it. Like this one is the Timberwolves patch, right? The 104th Infantry. And so this man here would have served in that unit the whole time while he was in service. He was with them the whole time. Whereas, like this one, for example, this one has two patches. It's got 9th Armored on the right shoulder, 1st Infantry Division on the left. So this guy, he would have served in combat. Originally, he would have been in the 9th Armored Division. That would have been the unit he served in combat with. And then at some point later in his service, maybe even when it's time for him to be rotated or transferred back to the States and out of the service, at some point that man was transferred to the 1st Infantry Division. Most of the time, again, it was to rotate people home and out of the service, but there were, I guess, other situations where people changed units during their service in the war. And so, again, that's the two patches. That's the normal case scenario, whereas, again, a single patch, they would have been with the same unit the whole time while they were in service. And then after the unit patch on the shoulders, then you have their rank. So like this guy was a sergeant, right? So was this guy right here. This guy was a technical sergeant. This guy, you see, there is no rank. So most of the time, whenever you see a uniform and there is no rank, it's also known as a chevron. That would mean they were just a private. There is no chevron, there is no rank for a private. It's just a blank arm, basically. There's no rank there. Again, this guy would have been another technician right here. And so private first class, there would have been one chevron. Basically, this right here, you see you've got three triangle type, teepee style stripes, I guess, or chevrons. It would just be a single one for private first class, and then 2 for corporal, 3 for sergeant, and so forth. And so that would be what's next, would be their rank. And then just below that, a lot of times you'll see gold bars. The gold bars here, each one represents 6 months of overseas service. So just for example, this guy spent 1.5 years overseas. This guy, 1.5 years overseas. This guy, 1 year. This guy, check this out, he spent 2.5 years overseas. And then the last one, another 1.5 years. Now, sometimes the soldiers, for whatever reason, they wouldn't put their gold bars on their uniforms. Sometimes they would, sometimes they wouldn't. Another thing, especially about like this uniform right here that's so special that you very rarely see, is this green stripe right here under their rank. This is a combat leader stripe. And basically what it means, this would have been an NCO, a non-commissioned officer, right, who led maybe a unit like a squad into combat. And so this was something that an enlisted man would have on their arm. It'd be horizontal. Whereas an officer, it would be up here on the shoulder. It would be basically wrapped through this shoulder area right here. It would be attached to there on both sides. Instead of an NCO, enlisted man, it would be on both arms, horizontal stripes. So that's a pretty cool thing right there you don't see very often on a uniform. And so again, gold bars, each gold bar represents 6 months of overseas service, right? Not their total service, just the overseas. Then a lot of times you'll see this hash mark right here. And what this represents is 3-year enlistment. And so in order to get this, you had to have basically met the criteria. You would have already had to serve the 3 years. Now, if you see 2 of these, it'd be 6 years. 3 would be 9. Each one of these represents 3 years, and that is only for the Army. Whereas like the Coast Guard, the Navy, the Marines, each hash mark would represent 4 years of service in that branch. So it's only Army that it represents 3 years. And again, you have to meet the criteria before you're able to put that on your uniform. And then, so sometimes, you know, when you look at the lower lapels here, again, we went over the U.S. and went over the unit, basically. Like this guy's infantry, right? Another infantry. Then you got artillery and, again, engineers and so forth. Sometimes you would have a distinctive insignias, basically, for a unit within a unit. So, like this right here, this guy was in I'm running a blank now, his unit. What is it, the 26th Infantry Regiment, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it's the 16th, I'm sorry. But anyways, their unit within a unit that he served in. And so, like, just for example, this right here represents the 3rd Armored Field Artillery Battalion. These DIs represent, again, a battalion or a regiment they served with. And so this is 9th Armored, right? So he was in the 3rd Armored Field Artillery Battalion of the 9th Armored. It's just like another little special thing that some soldiers would put on their lower lapels, enlisted men, in order to basically help better identify the unit they served with, right? And so, again, it's called a distinctive insignia or a DI, also known as a crest. Some people refer them to as a crest. You know, some soldiers also would have on their uniform what's known as a combat infantry badge. This one right here is a bullion one. It's not like a medal that's pinned onto the jacket or clutched with clutches on the back. This one is embroidered. It's tailor-made, basically. It's special made overseas. And it's a really cool example. But again, that's a combat infantry badge. And so what that represents is the combat infantry badge is awarded to a soldier who was an infantryman and satisfactorily performed his duties. He was also assigned to a unit that was engaged in ground combat, and he actively participated in the ground combat. And so that would only be for infantrymen, and again, you had to be in a combat unit. You had to have actively been engaged in the combat to be awarded a combat infantry badge. Sometimes it would be the medal, sometimes it would be something special like this that the soldier had made, like tailor-made or especially made for them. It wouldn't be issued by the military. Like this right here isn't something issued by the military like the actual medal form would be. That's something the soldier paid for themselves to have done. You know, most uniforms will have what's called ribbons right here. And, you know, the ribbons can represent, you know, awards or honors that they were given or presented, campaigns they served with and everything. You'll also see, like, campaign stars, which this is a bullion, or basically an embroidered, I should say, ribbon rack here. There's 3 ribbons, but you see, it's not the actual physical ribbons like this is on this uniform, or this is on this one. This one was specially made, just like the combat infantry badge on this jacket. It was specially made for this soldier. They paid extra themselves to have that done. It's really cool. I love seeing stuff like that. So again, that's campaigns, honors, and awards. Also, underneath, you would see what's called a marksman badge. That's what most people refer it to. It's actually a qualification badges. You'll see these right here, and see there's one on this uniform. I think one of the other ones might have it. Some have it, some don't. But what it basically represents is it is an award that's awarded after the shot for record was performed, that all soldiers have to perform after training and practice has taken place. So basically, you can qualify as expert or marksman or sharpshooter, for example, on the different types of weapons and stuff that you would, you could qualify on. And depending on the score, that would determine who was and had qualified for the badge, and also what weapon that they qualified using. There were close to 30 different weapons that were eligible to be qualified for. And so, just for example, this guy right here qualified on the carbine. This guy on the submachine gun. Right here it says rifle and grenade. Those are just a few examples of the almost 30 that you could qualify for. And so that's just another way of, decorating your uniform, kind of like, I don't know if you want to say bragging rights, but something to be proud of, something you earned and worked hard for and you were eligible for. Moving on here, dropped my notes. Here's another thing. So we have what's called the ruptured duck. And what that represents is honorable discharge. And so whenever you see that, the soldier, they were honorably discharged, Now here's the thing, with some of these patches, and again like the gold bars and the enlistment stripe and the ruptured duck, some of that stuff the soldiers wouldn't always put on their uniform. Maybe they didn't want to fool with it, or they were just happy to be out of the service, or whatever it may be. They just wanted to forget the war, and so they wouldn't always attach or sew these things onto their uniforms. But again, honorable discharge, that's what this ruptured duck is known as and what it represents. Moving on here, let's see. Kind of shuffling things around here for you. This right here you've probably seen. This is called the, it's the distinguished, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. I'm sorry. Backtrack. Getting ahead of myself. Right here we have the distinguished unit citation. This blue little ribbon, rectangle ribbon right here, or horizontal ribbon. And that was awarded to the units and individuals in the units when it had been earned. Basically, all future members of the unit were also authorized to wear the award as long as they were assigned to that unit. It's like a special award given to the whole unit for basically outstanding service in combat and stuff like that. So it's a big deal. And again, guys who didn't actually go through that combat, but maybe were a replacement or joined the unit later on through other ways, they were allowed to wear that as well. Now, sometimes that would cause issues with existing veterans in the unit who actually fought or did this and that to be eligible. They were a part of the unit and they engaged in the combat or did all this. It would cause hard feelings or frustrate them when new guys, replacements, would get the same thing when they weren't serving in the unit at the same time that it was awarded. But that's just kind of how it was. It was actually transferred, as far as the name of this, from the Distinguished Unit Citation Award to the Presidential Unit Citation in 1966. So I've even referred to it as the Presidential Unit Citation, but technically during World War II, it was the Distinguished Unit Citation, and that was until 1966. Moving on here, we've got this Meritorious Service Unit Citation, and this was awarded to units for exceptionally meritorious conduct in performance of outstanding services for at least 6 continuous months during the period of military operations against an armed enemy occurring on or after January 1st, 1944. So you had to be eligible, your unit had to be eligible in order to be awarded this Meritorious Service Unit Citation. And there can be multiple awards as well. You can see like a number 2 or 3 or so forth if it was a multiple award thing that was awarded multiple times, I should say. Went over, the combat stripes, and I'm trying to look at my notes here. A lot of soldiers would identify their uniform by either writing their name on the inside, or they would put what's called their laundry number. And so most of the time, their laundry number would be a letter and 4 numbers, like 4 digits. You see, you got 4 digits there. They didn't put their number in there. This one, here's a laundry number. It's B8953, which I know the numbers are kind of wore out, but it's B8953. And so what that would represent would be, the B would be the first letter of the soldier's last name. So it could be Billy Bob or whatever, just a B name, Brown. And then the 4 digits would be the last 4 of the soldier's serial number that they were assigned when they entered into the service. So again, that's known as the laundry number. Whereas sometimes soldiers would put their whole name in there, or they might just write their last name. Now, here's something I want to tell you, though. I'm kind of moving stuff around. Is you want to thoroughly look over your uniform, because the soldiers would write stuff everywhere. I've found names, even just flipping up this right here that covers the top of the pocket and the button. I've even seen names written on here, even on the underside of like the lapel. You can always check in the shoulder area on both sides. Maybe a name written inside the pocket. Sometimes it could be a name or laundry number written down here at the bottom. Believe it or not, I've even seen initials and laundry numbers written on the inside cuff of the arm or the sleeve of the jacket. So whenever you get a uniform, thoroughly look it over. Use a magnifying glass, use special lighting, whatever you got to do, you know, because they would write their names and information everywhere. And so that was a way, you know, so their stuff doesn't get mixed up with other people. Sometimes it would be written, sometimes it would be stamped with like an ink stamp thing that they were assigned. Sometimes they would paint it on there, or just use different methods to identify their uniforms, with a lot of time with what they had in the field. Another thing, though, is you know, you always want to check the pockets, you know, the front pockets, the inside here, because you'll never know what you might find that the soldier might have accidentally left inside the jacket or forgotten about, or so forth. You just never know what they might have left in there. I found matches. I found so much stuff. I couldn't even tell you all the stuff. I found movie stub tickets, folded paperwork, pictures. Sometimes you'll get lucky. I've even found a ribbon, a medal before in a pocket. I found ribbons and just extra patches. I even found a woman's stocking that was purple with pink lipstick on it. Not sure what that was about, but I have an idea in a way. Sometimes you'll find a dog tag, or sometimes you might find money or something, but always, always check the pockets, because you never know what might be in there, you know? And it's fun. It's kind of like a treasure hunt. You can find some really cool stuff, you know? I've also found, you know, another good thing would be if you buy a uniform, you know, to come with the shirt, tie, and pants. Because really, most of the time, it's just a jacket. It's just the coat, right? It's not a complete uniform like it would be, again, if you had the undershirt, if you had the tie, if you had the pants, maybe even the belt, even shoes and combat boots, or just dress shoes. So technically, it's not really a whole uniform if it's just the jacket only. I mean, it's just the jacket. Like, I've got this, whatever, I've got this 1st Infantry jacket, or I've got this 34th Infantry uniform. It's more complete, right? And so it's always good when you can get those extra things to make it more of a complete thing. One thing about me is I'm a completist when I come to collecting. I want a helmet with a liner if possible. I want a canteen with the cup and cover. I want a mess kit with utensils. You know what I mean? Like, I want the whole deal. I want a bayonet with a scabbard, you know. I want a rifle with ammunition, you know, just different things like that. Medal with presentation box or something like that. But I like to have a complete set of whatever I'm collecting. Again, sometimes you'll see laundry numbers, names written in the undershirt and the pants. Sometimes the undershirt will have patches on it as well, or even ribbons and stuff sometimes. But it's just really fun. There's so much with the collecting and stuff. It's just, you got to study it like a science, like I have done for almost 20 years. It's very rewarding and exciting and stuff. But again, knowledge is power. Something else that would be good to have, a couple things, would be the soldiers' dog tags and also their discharge papers. So if you have their discharge papers, it tells you basically all about their service, when they went in, when they got their shots, when they were discharged, if they were overseas, what campaigns or battles they took place in, what they qualified on, what ribbons or awards they were given, if they were wounded in combat. It gives you so much information if you can get their DD-214, their discharge papers. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't, but it's definitely like telling a story of their whole service if you have that paperwork. But anyways, guys, I hope you liked this video. I know it's kind of lengthy. I do want to make a part 2 on officer uniforms. But again, just a quick rundown. Remember, the short jacket with the 2 pockets on the front is an Ike jacket, an Eisenhower. The long jacket here, again, would be a Class A dress jacket. It's got the 4 pockets. Again, if you got a single patch uniform, they were with that unit most of the time. Their whole service, you know, in the service, they were in that one unit. If you got 2 patches here, like this guy was in the 87th, during combat, and then at some point he transferred to the 80th right here before he got out of the service. That was the last unit he served with before he got out of the service. He was discharged, right? And then again, the collar disc, the awards and stuff, gold bars, 6 months of overseas service. But it's real fun collecting and stuff. I hope you liked this video. I hope it gave you some information. Please comment, let me know what you think. Hit the like button, subscribe. Stay tuned for part 2. God bless all of you, and I'll be getting back to you soon. Thank you.